What's going on, guys? Kulprit here, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about something that's been irking me a little bit. And if you guys follow me on Twitter, you've seen me do a little bit of ranting today, so I figured, hey, why not? Let's make a video. It's been a while. I finally kind of have something to talk about, whether you agree with me or not. It's a good commentary, and it should make for some good discussion down below. If you follow Battlefield 4 particularly at all on YouTube like I do, I watch videos every day, and I have my favorites, and I have people I watch just to see what's going on. You've seen a literal barrage of videos claiming the new God gun, the new best weapon, OP weapon is this, and best loadout supreme, and epic hashtag, 1080p, all these things. And it drives me nuts because I feel like it's erroneous. A lot of the advice and information you're talking about seems to me it's been just recycled. Like, one guy watches somebody else's video and without actually playing the game themselves is just going, oh, okay, so I'll make a video about that and I'll do my little spin with my flashy little montage and I'll call it my own. As well as it's just clickbait, frankly. It's big thumbnail with a title, but there's no meat to it. It's the equivalent of YouTube fast food, basically. It's quick, it's easy, it might even taste good, be fun to watch, but it's really trash and it has no value. So I wanted to kind of put an antithesis video out there for you guys, telling you why I just despise these types of videos. And there's a subtle difference in these God gun videos versus a video of someone saying these are my new favorite weapons. That's totally legitimate and that's fine, and I actually may even do a video like that myself once I've kind of settled into those favorites. And you want to talk about why you like those weapons and things, that's fine. But all these videos touting this one loadout or this one weapon being better than all the others is just garbage, in my opinion. Let's give DICE a little bit of credit here. Well, Battlefield 4 had huge problems, well documented. If you're still watching Battlefield videos at this time, I don't need to tell you that. But they did a pretty good job, in my opinion, with weapon balance. It's just very good. It's much more improved over Battlefield 3. A lot more weapons are viable. A lot more weapons are competitive. Now, when you got up to the pinnacle, up into the competitive Battlefield environment, yeah, sure, we had some issues there. But in general, pubbing and matches like that, I think they did a pretty good job. And basically what they did, I feel, is they kind of balanced the subcategories of assault. Now, I'm gonna talk strictly about assault rifles here. It might just makes it easier to focus on one subgroup, the most popular subgroup being assault rifles. They balance within subcategories. You have your all-around general-purpose assault rifles, the 416s, the Aces. You have your CQBs of the AEKs, the FAMAS, medium range of the AUG, the AR160 now, the L85, the SCAR H fits in there somewhere. It's kind of a bit of a hybrid. And of course, the long range of the SAR-21 and things like that. And within these subcategories, they've kind of balanced them within there. I'll get to that in a minute. And now you have these YouTubers. I mean, one of the darling right now is the L85A2. Everybody loves it. And I really feel like a lot of these guys just literally went to Synthic, like they do for all their information, and they looked, and Synthic was nice enough to make this nice color-coded chart that has green for buff and red for nerf, and they looked at the L85 and they're like, oh my god, there's one red mark, which was the damage reduction, which all assault rifles got, so really you can throw that out, and it got like 20 green little thingies here, and oh my god, this thing must be crazy. Well, yeah, now don't get me wrong, the L85 is a good weapon. I'd argue it's a great weapon in its role. I've been using it quite a bit. But I would never make a claim that it's the God gun. I'd never make the claim it's even the best weapon in the assault rifle class. I wouldn't even necessarily tell you it's the best bullpup in the assault rifle class. And that is basically, for me, it comes down to that reload. They have not touched the reload. That reload is very, very long, and it kind of negates some of the buffs that weapon gets. Now, I'm going to do this as I go over and I revisit my Gun Locker series and do weapons. And the L85 is high at the top of that list because it has some interesting changes. But my point is this, is there is no God gun. And these guys touting it and telling you that, just kind of take it with a grain of salt, shrug it off, and to me it's just obvious that these guys are kind of half-assing Battlefield 4 these days. A lot of these quote-unquote bigger YouTubers and stuff, that's where a lot of my, my quality information and opinions and impressions come from, the smaller guys, the guys that are doing this out of passion. Anybody that's bigger, I feel like they're cashing in at this point. They got one foot out the door. They're all kind of looking at each other's videos, recycling that information and just going with it. And it's this big circle jerk. Nobody mentions the heavy barrel. Nobody mentions the suppressors and the buffs that those got, making them very, very viable. You can almost suggest heavy barrels on just about every weapon now. And if you're halfway skilled, which that's debatable on me yet, you'll do much better off for it. So I just kind of get a little annoyed when I see these things because it's clearly clickbait, and I just wonder what your opinions on that were. Now, if we can shift gears a little bit, let's just talk about weapon balance in general. And one of the hot topics on Reddit and things is this weapon balance and how this notion that every weapon in this game has to be equal, which is just so, it's a fallacy. If I could steal from my title again, it's wrong. It's not meant to be. Every weapon stacked up against the other weapon is balanced. To me, the way I look at it and the best way I can explain it is it's like a toolbox, right? I mean, I go to my toolbox. I don't use, say, the chisel as often as I use a screwdriver, right? A screwdriver I use for a million things. I use it almost daily. It's on my multi-tool for a reason, right? But I don't use that chisel, or I don't use that, circle, that O-ring set of pliers. I don't use that very often. But I'm very happy that those things are available to me when I need them. When the situation calls for those tools, they're there in my toolbox. That is exactly like it is for me with, let's say, the FAMAS. I don't use the FAMAS very often. But you know what? If I'm rushing an MCOM and I'm getting really CQB and I need that extra oomph up close and personal, I will pick up the FAMAS then and use it. Now, some guys obviously main the FAMAS and they're much better players than I am. They can control it, but that's not the point. Same could be said about, I won't go so far as the SAR-21, but let's go the AUG or the L85, the aforementioned. And, I'm glad those weapons are there. I don't main those weapons. I don't consider them balanced with, say, the Ace-23, the 416, the Scar-H, again, pre-patch and post-patch. But I'm very glad those weapons are there, because when I'm going to play an anchor role or an Overwatch or a defensive position on rush, say, I like having weapons like that because the situation calls for them. I don't expect every weapon to stack up next to each other and be equal. That's just not going to happen. I mean, look at Counter-Strike. It has much, much fewer weapons. Yet, money aside and budget and eco aside, everybody plays with the same 3 weapons. The AK-47, the M4, and the AUG. That's it. That's all anybody would, preferably use. And that's fine. But nobody's really moaning. People probably like new guns in that game. I'm not that up on the community. But it's, it's still a fairly balanced game. Again, like I mentioned before, weapons are balanced by subgroup. I mean, look at the medium range. The subgroup of medium plus range weapons that I mentioned. The L85, the AUG, the AR160. The L85 has the highest rate of fire in that little subgroup. Good accuracy, but it's got a brutal reload. And, it does also have the bullpup mobility and hip fire. The AUG, great accuracy, got less of a rate of fire as the L85, but a better reload. There's that trade-off. And it also has the bullpup mobility plus hip fire. Now, AR160, a lot of people have been touting this one up there in their little God gun or new best weapons videos, right? Best accuracy, beast accuracy, actually. Very little recoil, great reload. It's got a good enough rate of fire. It's equal to the AUG. It's just slightly less than the L85. Problem is, it lacks those bullpup buffs. And all 3 of these are fairly balanced in my opinion. And I'm actually personally right now having a hard time choosing between which one of these is my favorite. I like them all for different reasons. I can't quite decide which one I would say is my favorite just yet. And that's what I've been doing lately. But, everybody sits here and they make these videos. Oh, the AR160 is so great now. This thing is so fantastic. I tried it when it came out. I didn't really like the recoil on it, so I never gave it a shot. Okay, but now you're going to tell me it's so much better and it's awesome and it's one of the best weapons out there. I don't quite understand that. So, again, I guess the overall message here is take everything with a grain of salt. It's hard to balance, CQB weapons versus medium range weapons. It's just very difficult to do, especially in a game like Battlefield where you've got Conquest, you've got Rush, 2 very, playstyle different games. You've got, one life matches. I can't think of the name because I barely ever play it. Diffuse, thank you. TDM, domination, and let's just, as a wild card, we'll throw in hardcore there, which, it seems like they don't even pay attention to that in balancing, but it's very hard to balance things in a game like this, and don't go with those expectations, and don't sit here and cry and moan about it, and we'll be fine. And there's always going to be top dogs. There's always going to be less utility, useful guns, or guns you won't main, but the guns that will be very useful in a given situation. And that's, to me, is how it works. I mean, a weapon for me becomes a god gun when a skilled player can take a CQB type weapon, think the FAMAS, the AEK, and stretch that weapon out to medium range and make it very viable through their skill and their recoil management and their burst fire. If you can take that CQB weapon and make it viable and very effective at a medium range, that is a god gun, but that is not due to the gun. That is due to the player. And everybody's always crying and moaning and yelling that we want the game based on skill, which I think they've done a fairly good job with that, all other issues aside. So there you go, guys. There's my little mini rant and my little topic of the day. Let me know what you guys think on this, the new gun changes. What are some of your favorites? I'd like to hear that. I will be revisiting these guns in my gun locker, going over some of the changes. I don't know if I'll revisit all the ones I've done, but most of the ones I'm using right now probably. And what do you think about weapon balance in general? How do you think Battlefield 4 has covered it? Thanks so much for listening, guys. I'll talk to you next time. Take care.